Today, we catch up with Alec Holmes to see how he's doing and what he's learned by leaving the status quo of the corporate system. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it's been about 10 or so months since I think you caught me right before I left my job, or sh maybe shortly after.
I'm really excited for this conversation because it's really hard to break the system, right?
Yeah, yeah, if you're seeking freedom, it's definitely challenging along the way. But it's a worthwhile journey, I think, even amidst the struggles.
Acclimating to the fact that it is a journey. Like
Hmm.
your life is an experience. It's
Hmm.
not a set of plot points that are,
Right.
you hit this one, this one, this one according to the status quo. Like once you figure that out, there's so much freedom in it, but it's also terrifying.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, how's it feel? What's going on? It's 10 months later. What are you experiencing?
I think it was more intense than I had originally anticipated. Because when you have the job and the stable income and the benefits and everything, the side projects feel easy. They don't have as much importance. You're just kind of nurturing them on the side a little bit. But when you take that step off of the stability into the more entrepreneur type, where you're depending on your own projects, they take on a new significance. So I think kind of figuring that out, and life isn't always nice. So I think there's definitely been a process in those 10 months to where you might think you're strong and capable, but challenges will come like one at a time and sometimes a lot at the same time. So you have to start growing and building strength and like actually building your systems to give them more strength and stability. So it's been a huge process of like challenges, victories, challenges again, and then more challenges and overcoming them and seeing what happens along the way. So it's been interesting for sure.
Do you think that you could ever be really ready to cut the cord?
It's been a dream of mine to do this, to kind of jump off and see if I can actually swim in the world. And yeah, I don't think there's ever a correct time, because you're always thinking you can build a safety net. Like if I can only survive, if I make it, if I have enough savings to make it 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, 12 months, it's never enough. Like, oh, maybe 24, and then you just keep going and going. But I think when you make that transition, you just have to do it. It's kind of with a lot of things in life. I don't think the time will ever be perfect for someone. But on the flip side of that, sorry, internally is sometimes there's such a drive, something that like a fork in the road, I think, and you have to make that decision. So I think that's sort of what makes it right. Not the external, but the internal demand, if that makes sense.
So what was your internal fork?
It's just kind of an identity thing. It's like, do I want to continue down this road, which I know I don't want to be. I don't want to be this character I'm building. I don't want to be this character I was taught to build, and I want to honor something deeper and more true. So that's kind of a scary thing, but when you go along that path far enough, you have to eventually make a decision. Am I going to sacrifice this part of myself to continue doing something that I don't want to do, or am I going to take the chance and jump off and see if I can actually make it, honoring who I truly am?
So sometimes, certainly it's been in my experience that the universe gives me a big fat kick
Mhm.
into that place. Was that true for you and your circumstance? If you could take us back there for a
Sure.
sec.
Yeah, it's almost kind of humorous. So as we discussed previously, I worked in the corporate world in healthcare, doing talent acquisition, which is like kind of helping the recruitment team. And I had taken a good position, like my first like bigger salary type job. It was with a good company in Boston, and it was great. Everything looked good, but it got to a point where this inner thing was going on, and they eventually realized I wasn't able to kind of like become them. I didn't identify with their culture as much, so it was this force against me, like to where like either I had to choose to do that and do something I didn't want to do versus taking that road. So I kind of lost your question there.
No, you didn't. You explained it fully because that was your fork. You knew with that
Sure.
beyond doubt that you had to get moving. Plus, they were looking at you cross-eyed, like, yeah, you're not fitting in the mold. So you knew
Yeah.
like it was only a matter of time. And that's
Mhm.
happened so often to me multiple times because I always try to fit in that peg, but I
Yeah.
can't. I just don't fit in it. I wiggle back and forth, but I just don't fit in it.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm sure there was that high the first like 6 weeks or so, but then
Mhm.
when reality sunk in and you realize, oh, there's no direct deposit
Yep.
coming. Describe that and how you work with it.
So I don't know too many entrepreneurs in my family, so I wasn't fully aware of what that path entails. And yeah, so something you kind of get used to is the stable income. Like you don't have to worry as much, so you can kind of play around with your side projects. But entrepreneurship, and when you're doing creative work and your money comes from different places and you're depending on that, it's not stability. So you go through the highs and the lows. And I kind of think about that as cycles in nature. I'm living here off grid in no Northern California, so up in the mountains, so I get to see the nature cycles a lot. And I just kind of use income as cycles now. So like there's times where it's up and there's more abundance, but now, like for example, we're in December, and even with the businesses, things have slowed down. So you have to kind of like use that to balance your resources more so. But in the beginning, yeah, there's times where like it got scary. Like I remember I had I think $19 in my bank account at one point. That's not counting like my trading account, but still like $19 I had that's been like since high school since I had that low of an amount. But it gets to a point sometimes where it's kind of scary. Yeah, and then but when you get to that point, when you get to those low points, the upper points are more blissful, I guess, because you learn to appreciate them. So yeah, for me, it's been kind of those ups and downs so far. Uh,
But when you're down to that point where you're at the $19, or for me, I've been at $3, what happens? Because something happens. Like there's so much pressure that I experience getting down to that bottom point, which I don't go to anymore. It's really interesting. Like, I just have this inner knowing and understanding that the universe is going to take care of me no matter what. And the more I affirm that, I don't go to the $3 point anymore. But what happens as you get to that $19 point? Does the stress actually lift and then something comes out of left field that brings in the abundance? What's been your experience?
Yeah, so the low points, there's a lot of wisdom and humbling and purifying in the low points. So it's a huge part of the process. It's not always, it's mostly painful, I would say, but I think that's related to identity. So if you're going through a phase in life where you're shifting identities almost, the low points are what transform you and kind of mold you a little bit more and take out what you don't need anymore and kind of add the wisdom and refinement to get through the next phases. So I think without the low points, there's a lack of wisdom because there's a lot of lessons to be learned in the low points. How you behave in the low points. Are you disciplined? Do you break down? Or how do you get your mind in a more positive place? Like all the practices come into play. All the methods of bringing yourself back up come into play. So yeah, the low points are pretty special, I'd say. Not pleasant, but special.
So share with us some specifics on your methods to come back up from that place of the bottom, the $19, the $3, whatever it is. What are
Mhm.
some of the tools you implement to move you forward?
Um, so I've implemented visualization and meditation, of course, but the newer thing is visualization into my weekly routine, which is even if you're in a low point, you try to put yourself mentally in a position of being at a higher point and kind of enjoying what that looks like. So when you're in the low points, you have something to look for, and that creates a feeling of hope, things to hope in, and then also things it kind of forces you to work towards those places when you're at the low points. Um, that I like to go out in nature and just go on walks like for a while. I try to implement that into my routine, just like kind of that solitude a little bit, and you can get a lot of lessons from nature. So in that sense, that helps. And then just continuing to persist and have faith and trust in the cycles and know that usually the bottoms lead to rises. So if you can make it through, like of course we all get scared, like oh this might be it, like I might die here at this dip. You probably sensed that before. Uh, so yeah, it's like you usually don't die. You usually come back up. And then you come back up with more wisdom and more strength.
So you said the word hope. And for some of us, the word hope has become a bad word because people are defining it as hopium.
Hmm.
And just what I'm toying around with now is embodying that place of feeling really soothed, like cared for, nurtured, protected, guided, and it's making such a difference. I mean, usually I wake up and it's dread and fear and trauma,
Hmm.
like every morning. And that's starting to shift with embodying the feeling of security and safety and affluence. And I don't even have to think twice about what I spend, even though I do. Like I
Hmm.
keep numbers. I like know where I am.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But how does embodiment play into your day?
Uh, Embodiment. So you mentioned the hope piece. I think hope doesn't necessarily have to be hopium. It's kind of an individual thing on what you hope and what you as the person want to achieve. Like for me, so like our e-commerce store, maybe I want like a big item to sell, or say we have like 10 items listed and they're big items. So I have hope that one will sell and the potential exists. So it's a logical hope, I suppose. Um, but if you put the work in and there's things out there that you can hope for, it even doesn't have to be logical like that. Like you could extend it out to like even if you want a new house or something like that, you can have hope that you can achieve it. And hope is also kind of a piece of confidence. Um, and it keeps you motivated. So yeah, if
So
that
let me ask you a question. It sounds like you have different pots going on too. It's not like you're just invested in one modality to bring in an income stream. Is that correct?
yeah, and I'm kind of confusing right now, but my goal in the future is to see like as I am successful and hopefully it continues to be successful is kind of make these simpler so I can help others get out of where they want to be because I've talked to a lot of friends in the corporate world. I think most people don't want to be there. So if there's another method that someone has found that they can share, uh, it's amazing to be the kind of the door holder for people if they actually wanted to escape. But yeah, so part of my tactic is we do e-commerce. My wife is doing art, and then I have my stock trading account doing website work. So the idea is multiple streams of little income. And when you have multiple ways of getting your substance, it makes it a little simpler. So yeah, I do this. My stock trading is kind of a primary one. That's my obsession, as well as a few websites. Arts of Thought, I know you're familiar with. Not very good at monetizing that, but the community is amazing. It's more about the network there. There's a lot of amazing people, and then doing like little affiliate work on online here and there. So that's kind of the little circle that we're nourishing right now.
I'm just dipping my toe into the trading world and it's so much fun. It's addicting. I find it
Hmm.
addicting, but I haven't been brave enough to trade with real money. Only trade with paper money right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can do it. It's possible. It's possible. There are people who have done it. It's not easy. It's a very demanding process, and it takes you through a whole range of emotions, and it requires a lot of refinement, a lot of persistence. It's definitely not an easy game to play, but it is possible, which is cool. And there is
Yeah.
logic in the markets.
So if you were to take someone out of the corporate world and into, it independently earning,
Mhm.
what would be the steps? What would be the steps you would take them through?
It kind of depends where they're coming from. I think maybe the first priority would be identifying their interests and what they like. I think the simplest business to get into these days, for people who are somewhat competent with technology, is just start an eBay store. It's pretty simple. You can sell pretty much anything. People can start with items in their kitchen, and they can build an eBay store up, and it can eventually sustain their lives. It's kind of almost like a little cheat code. But that's actually one of our primary businesses is one of our eBay stores. Um, so just giving them like a basic understanding of entrepreneurship, kind of how taxes work, how income works, and that can all be looked at through like a little eBay store because it's all the components of a business. So it depends on the person though. There's other ways to go about making money online for sure, kind of depending on their what they're interested in.
I think as time continues, more and more of us are going to be looking to extricate from the traditional system, whether it's
Mhm.
done for us because the job evaporates or systems change, or because you're just not a fit for that
Mhm.
system any longer. How do you see the sort of corporate system shifting in the future, and how will that play a role in creating community?
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of funny to be able to say this now. I don't know, but it just got so silly. Like the videos they made us watch for training, how these people who like they have no position in leadership are just kind of dictating, and they're on their power trips, and there's so much politics in it. Now AI is in it. It's pretty crazy, and I think it's stressful for anyone. I know there's probably a couple personality types that thrive in that sort of environment, but there are, yeah, a lot of people who are looking to escape, for sure. Uh, but yeah, I think it's going to happen, and there's more and more opportunities these days for people to actually exit and create their own businesses and sustain their lives away from that world if that's what they want. So with the internet, with access to like the stock market, like anyone can access that. Anyone can do e-commerce. It's more available. I think it just requires more people stepping out and actually doing it, and then showing that it's possible, and then helping others get out as well. So I think
Yeah,
there's definitely a transition. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and that's why I'm so glad and I was so excited to do this conversation this morning because there is so much more available. Everybody gets so terrified about AI and how it's going to shrink the market. And I don't really know that that's true. Like I have AI bots trading for me right now because
Mhm.
they're not as emotional as I am. They don't
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
as soon as they see green, they stay in the game. But for me,
Mhm.
I see green, I'm like, I gotta get out, like
Yeah. Mhm.
I gotta get out now. So, but I think there's going to be the ability for us to use AI for our well-being, for our benefit, and to give us some more freedom, which would be
Yeah.
within
Mhm.
creating and monetizing
Yeah.
and finding a
Good
different
point.
way.
Sure,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, I think what I see is this transition away from these traditional style jobs into other avenues. So like I use AI all the time. Like some of the products we sell, I don't know anything about. So if a customer asks a question about one, I can just put their message in AI and then sound like an expert in my response. So that little things, I don't use AI for trading. I trade manually, like very manually, but I will use AI to like if they release like some type of filing I don't know about, I'll just paste that filing into AI and say, is this like good or bad, basically? Like, is there dilution or not? Um, and so yeah, but it makes it also, I think, more possible to exit and do your own thing because you have a constant support with you that knows like everything or whatever. Um, so yeah, it makes it more possible, but I think it's also hurting the more traditional jobs. So I think the correct side to be on these days is the creator side. Uh, but yeah, that's where I would place my bet.
How can you said you're visualizing more. So
Mhm.
how can visualization techniques help the non-creative start to consider
Yeah.
becoming more creative?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of goes through a process where it's hard to identify sometimes if we're because we go to school like we're constantly being bombarded, like to take the time to actually know what we actually want. So if someone goes into the practice of visualization that's not like accustomed to it, doesn't know much about it, isn't out yet or whatever, they can kind of start to identify the things that they actually truly want, not what like other people tell them they want, but they can like start imagining like what would I really want in this case? What kind of house would I want? Because you can do whatever you want in your imagination. It's not bound by money and things. So you can like dream up your dream house. What like car do you want to drive the most? Things like that. So you get to know yourself a little bit more. Or like what kind of relationship do I want to be in? And then you start like, oh yeah, I do want that. And then you can actually start working towards it in life. Uh,
And you've experienced that firsthand in your own life. I mean, that was
mhm.
true about your wife and how you guys came together, about how you found where you're living and being off the grid and then leaving the corporate system and creating. your own. I mean, it's very tangible in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's kind of something I debate with internally, like philosophically almost, is like, was the vision pre-programmed in me and I'm just uncovering it, or if I'm creating it? But to me, it feels, now that I've been doing this for a while, more like an uncovering, like rather than grasping, if that makes sense. So it's like already there, it's just uncovering it and kind of allowing things to unfold, like getting out of your own way almost.
And when you're uncovering it, is it uncovering from the inside, something internal to you that you're uncovering essentially? Just if you could describe that process a little bit more.
Yeah, I think what comes to mind, I don't know if you're Wilhelm Reich. He's an old psychologist, kind of in the Jungian Freudian area, but I think that's what he called character armor. So that's a good keyword to look up, character armor. But I think society kind of, when we're dealing with school systems and college and things, we put on some armors and they become part of our persona or identity. So it's almost like pulling those pieces off, kind of the person we were morphed into versus the person we actually want to become. So kind of working through and pulling those pieces off to actually become more of who you were truly meant to be, and become more in alignment. So like that means maybe more joy in life, more fun, more feeling like you're actually on a meaningful journey, things like that.
So do those days of joy and knowing you're on your path, are they becoming more clear and more the norm as you continue in this process that you're in? Or do you feel like you may want to run back to something more stable?
So both, I'd say. I think even so, sometimes not making as much money as I might have with a salary, it's still like feels more joyful or more in alignment, which is more worthwhile to me than making it like whatever amount of money and not being in alignment. So it feels better to earn the money when it's coming from some place where I'm actually in alignment, doing what I want to be doing. So it's more meaningful. There's times that become scary, and you're like, am I like crazy? Am I like, is this gonna work? Like, did I just ruin my life? Like, did I just ruin my resume? So those fear cycles do come in, but the practice of getting them out is what kind of helps sustain as well. So yeah, the fear cycle can start that, but you try to avoid that because
So
it can
so
really
give
get you.
give I'm like totally into the tangible today. Give me a tangible on reducing the fear, releasing the fear piece to get into the alignment piece. What's something that you do?
So still working on it for sure. I think meditation helps and just kind of releasing everything and not engaging in the thought patterns that come up, just not engaging in them. That I think that primarily helps the most. And then looking forward to things, having hope, visualizing it, maybe kind of going through your inventory, your store, looking at your numbers and saying, okay, I can be a little more hopeful. So kind of looking at the situation helps um, get rid of that fear cycle. Even cutting yourself off from people. So people that might try to pull you back down into that old pattern. So you at least not forever, you don't have to cut them off forever, but at least long enough to where you can strengthen your identity to where you can come back to them and not be as affected. So little things like that I think help. Because if you surround
Yeah.
yourself back with the people who are still in that world, it becomes harder to break free, create your identity, and then come back.
Yeah, it's really so essential to find the support of at least one person
Mhm.
that's on the same frequency
Yeah.
as you are. Because yeah, especially in the beginning, like those pulls, those jabs, and sometimes I think that people don't even realize what they're doing when they do that, but it
Mhm.
can be really like disabling. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to add, Alec, about your experience, like stepping away from the mainstream, or anything you want to, yeah, touch on that we didn't hit?
Yeah, it is possible, and there are people out there who can support you, and it's interesting. So if it's something you want to try in life, you might as well go for it and see what happens. But yeah, don't give in to the fear and keep persisting.
I'm so glad that you braved another conversation today because I think it's really essential. You know, people dream about this, but they don't really have the tangibles, and you're really able to verbalize it
Mhm.
very simplistically and very straightforward. So it's very tangible. And I really appreciate your courage
Yeah,
and the
thank you.
continuation. Yeah, the continuation of the trudge, which is becoming less of a trudge. I mean,
Mhm.
really, it's amazing. So I'm looking forward to our next conversation already, Alec.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it.